Hello, hello, this is Ian, and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video inside of Clockwork Chronicles, and we are reading The Lost Hermits, and we are in Chapter 6. We are going through Part 3 right now, and yeah, I am going to be continuing for a little bit longer, so yeah, let's get started. Hey, Pulse, how did you get here? She ran across the remainder of the hall to greet him with a hug as Impulse tried not to flinch. We've been looking all over for you. Well, here I am. The hermit presented himself with a wide grin. What happened? She pressed as she gestured for the hermit to follow her. It's a long story, Impulse admitted, and he found the couch and sat down. Jem closed the blinds, covering the window quickly as she dragged out a medical kit from behind one of the armchairs. Is it okay if I have a look at you? She asked gently, as she knelt next to him on the couch. Yeah, just be careful. The arm's still a little tender. He nodded as she examined him, noting what she could see as she asked him some questions. He answered them the best he could. Do you want me to deal with the arm first or the burns? She offered, as she got up from her position and opened the choker box. Burns don't seem as bad. Healing seems to be working there, he said thoughtfully. The arm still needs a little work, I think. Don't have regeneration. They didn't have regeneration yet, I'm guessing. They? Her head lifted to face him. People who found me. Who found you? She closed the box as she turned to him. The hermit hesitated as he looked over at the hallway where the stairwell was. Can't really say. It's supposed to be a secret. You know I can keep secrets. Jem teased as she unwrapped the makeshift sling, gently lowering the arm as she had a look over it. I'm aware. Impulse sighed as he stared up at the ceiling. Before he could say anything, he heard the sound of rockets behind him from outside the window. He turned his head instinctively, gasping in pain as he turned back. Are you okay? Jem asked with concern. She stood up, noticing something through the window as she went to the door, opening it. Skids! I thought you would be here in an hour. I figured I'd drop early to help. Skid's voice stayed quickly as Impulse just sat there, speechless. What was his friend doing here? How had he gotten here? Maybe you can help me with something, actually. She offered as the YouTuber peeked through the door, spotting the other hermit immediately. Double Skid practically skipped across the room, stopping as he noticed the hermit hold his hand up warily. Hey, the Impulse said with a smile. I thought you were supposed to be missing. I know. Came here to help look for you. I know. Skid asked. Skid laughed as Jem entered the room again, pulling out a couple of items from the sugar box and going over to the cauldron, pouring some regen inside. You gave us all quite a scare there, buddy, Skid said happily as he sat down next to his friend. What happened to you? It's a long story, Hermit admitted as he shook his head, reaching for his pocket before remembering he neither had a communicator on him nor the picture he had found in the room to show his friend. Right before I was attacked, I found something in my room. Was it one of those clock thingies? Skid asked quickly. Impulse nodded. Pretty much. The guy probably added a big circle in the final letter, too. He wasn't there to capture me. Oh! Jem gasped in horror as she walked over to his right, wrapping the towel in her hand around his arm gently. He was relentless. I barely had time to call for Blake. He looked down at the floor. That could save me again. Blake told me that while you were trying to escape, the guy shot you down. She tried to stop him from going after you again, Skid replied. He couldn't find you after the fact. You just vanished. He smiled sadly. Someone found me and helped me until I was strong enough to come here. Alone? Why couldn't they have called Matthias or Blake to get you? Jem asked quickly. As she gently rubbed the towel over the arm. It's complicated, he admitted with a sweet smile. At least you're okay, so that's good, Skid said cheerfully, before looking at Jem. Have you called Blake yet to call off the search? Post literally just got here. I didn't have much of a chance, she giggled. Then let me, Skid offered, as he pulled out his communicator. Go for it. Jem smiled as the YouTuber disappeared out of the room. Skid insisted on coming here to help look for you after asking Blake why he hadn't heard from you yesterday. I'm not surprised. Impulse looked over at her, seeing her wrap his arm again with the bandage, putting the clean white towel aside. I would have done the same. She nodded as she looked him in the eye. Whatever it is you aren't telling me, would you know? It's okay. I know, Impulse mused. Matthias is aware of it. And I want to bring it up to him when I get the chance. Okay. She sighed with a smile. There's a good reason, Jem. Trust me. Impulse reassured her as he stood up. I don't want to lie to you, but right now it can't be entirely truthful either. You do need to, would you? She asked. Yeah, he nodded. I told you about the kids back then, remember? She nodded and smiled, looking toward the kitchen. You have a lot of explaining to do. Yeah, he smiled, putting a hand on her shoulder. So, what's the verdict for my arm? Oh, it's not bad, she said quickly, shifting the subject. Just a few days of rest with regen should do it. No, don't overwork yourself by using it. Got it, he agreed, as he looked out the window, seeing stillness in the forest beyond. You know that guy? He's still out there. Blake had lost sight of him when he retreated to look for you, she replied calmly. Impulse bit his bottom lip as he nodded. Is it okay if you could check on G real quick? Scar, even? Of course. Jem nodded, pulling out her communicator. Skid walked back to the room just then. Making another call? Skid asked curiously. Just a typical check-in, she replied. Well, really an emergency check-in. Impulse's request. Got it, he juggled, looking over at his friend. Blake should be here in about 2 minutes, tops. Good. Blake smiled. Impulse smiled. Spot. That sentence is not right. Somebody tell me why the sentence is not right. Spotting Matthias through the window as he went for the door and opened it, catching the escort's eye immediately. He watched as Jem disappeared into the kitchen as he was pulled into the secret room by Matthias, more than willing to chat with the man, tell him everything. It's the least he could do. Chapter 7. Impulse looked out the window, hearing his friends doing things just in the other room. He hadn't spent too long talking with Matthias and filling in all the details for him. Nothing was left out, at least he hoped so. Still, Blake had yet to arrive as he waited, unsure what would happen next. Oh my gosh. The hermit shook his head as the memory of the attack last night floated back to the surface. How had all of this happened in one day, after everything they'd done to prevent it? He knew the plan hadn't been flawless. Blake had told him that. It didn't mean it wasn't any less terrifying to have one of those men chasing after him. He glanced over his shoulder to the kitchen, wondering how Jem was doing with calls. He couldn't be sure what the attacker might do next, or if he knew where he was. Uneasiness filled him as he looked back out the covered window, just as the shadow of a figure landed on the earth below. The hermit watched as the figure walked to the door, recognizing it was Blake, as a wave of release washed over him as he stood. The door opened as the boy walked into the room, smiling when he saw the hermit. Good to see you're in one piece, the young man mused, as he crossed the room casually. How's the arm doing? Ran one last night. I'm told it'll get better in time. He nodded, gesturing to the injured arm. Thanks for being there. It's my job, the boy laughed as he stood by his charge and ran in the window. And think I'd see him again after what happened. Really? The hermit replied curiously, tilting his head as he turned to his friend. Blake nodded. The guy was my cousin. We were good friends, but a lot of things have changed since we last saw each other. Thought he'd been killed with the others, only to find him trying to infiltrate the school, trying to get intel about some of my friends there. How did all of that happen? You never really spoke about that, Impulse said quietly. If you're up for it, of course. I lived in a small town when I was younger, up until I was 7 or 8, the boy admitted. My cousin was a few years older than me. We were playing in the park when we heard the sound of a helicopter. I saw what it was and hid, and Mr. A's men charged into town, demanding to know where the YouTubers were. Impulse noticed the young man shake his head, for clearing his throat, tears filling the boy's eyes as he continued to stare out the window. I wanted to get a closer look as the men went to the town square, where they pulled people out of their homes. The boy hesitated. My family, friends, everyone was taken or killed. I was later found by one of the cause members who took me to Rose and taken to the school. I'm sorry. The hermit nodded, his head slowly, putting a hand on his shoulder. It's not anyone's fault apart from Mr. Hayes, the boy sighed. Never wanted to see something like that happen again. Anyone? Did you ever find out why they were after your village, apart from the possible YouTubers? Impulse asked. The boy shrugged, shaking his head. No, I never did. I was just told that the cause sent there because a family was hiding out in my village. They must have gotten a distress call or something. Well, I'm glad you're here, Impulse said with a smile, as he gave the boy a side hug with his uninjured arm. I'm happy to be here. The boy smiled over at the hermit. You know, I've learned a lot over the years, not just from Liam or the other teachers, but also from you guys. Yeah, you can learn a lot from just observing. Impulse chuckled. I did see you training with you the other day. That was weeks ago, the boy laughed. I wanted to see my skills and how I could improve. Dick saved the day was mildly impressed. That's good, the hermit sighed. We learned something from last night. I really should have told you as soon as I noticed invisibility detectors were off. At least you made it out of that, okay? The boy chuckled. The hermit nodded again. His thoughts interrupted when he heard footsteps from behind him as he turned, spotting Skids walk around the corner. Hey, Impulse, the YouTuber said happily. Pearl wanted to ask if you were willing to help out with more defenses on the wall. I can do that, Impulse said quickly, before hesitating. Are you sure it'll be safe? I've got your back, Skid said confidently, crossing the room as he grabbed his friend by his uninjured arm. And so does Blake. You'll be fine. Okay, Hermit chuckled. Though I can't really use my arm for a few days while else healing. I'll help, Skid insisted. We can make this the strongest fortress ever. Together! Impulse laughed as he followed his friend out the main room, hearing his escort's footstep right behind him. It was a reminder for him that he was alone, safe. Hopefully, the men wouldn't come after him again. But in the chance he did, he would be ready. Chapter 8. A few days had passed since the latest attack. Impulse was walking down the secret tunnel system with Blake right by his side, his arm now fully healed, thanks to all the regeneration potions and rest. Now he was heading to XB's place to help him set up some security and safety measures for the Hermits, hidden pretty much in his basement. You haven't really told me much about why we're going to your friend's place, Blake admitted, as the boy casually walked just behind him. Mainly because this operation is meant to be secret, the Hermit admitted. I've cleared it already, so it's just mainly... I've cleared it already. I just mainly need to bring over the stuff and help them start to set up. I see. The boy nodded, a small smile for me on his face. I'm just impressed your friend managed to keep it secret for so long. Still is. Most of the other hermits don't know I'm doing this. The hermit tricked even Gem and Pearl. The escort nodded as they neared the XP's tunnel's entrance, and Impulse looked around warily, not seeing any sign of a possibility of someone watching them. Should be over here, Impulse urged as he found the hidden staircase, as he began walking down, checking over his shoulder once to see the boy was following just behind him. There was a long silence as greeted the two of them as the hermit came to the door, peeking in to see the first room was empty. Actually pretty smart, Blake assessed with intrigue. Yeah, maybe you should keep a watch out here. Impulse waited for the boy to affirm before he nodded. He opened the door, speaking a little louder so the others could hear. Guys, it's just me. I brought some things over for you. Sure enough, he could hear footsteps and the door opened, and Jevin peeked his head out as Impulse walked into the room, taking the sugar box he had stashed in his pocket. XP did say you were coming, Jevin smiled as he stepped out of the room. Impulse noticing the others coming out from hiding places. Impulse put down the box. The hermit opened it. Yeah, I think this will work. Do you want help setting it up? Impulse offered as he glanced over his shoulder, glimpsing Blake still stationed outside. I think we can manage. I don't want to keep you in case some people get suspicious, Jevin said quickly as he picked up the box. I told the others I went to Zed's to give them some supplies, the hermit said casually. There's nothing suspicious there. I guess that's true, the other hermit said warily. At least you can help us with the detectors. We probably won't need them, though. I can save you more than you know, Impulse chuckled. Very well. Jevon smiled again as he walked into the second room, as Impulse followed him, the door closing behind him as he noticed the others watching him, their eyes full of questions. Impulse got to work as quickly as he could, setting up the invisibility detectors. He was just about done as he spotted Jevon passing out the communicators he made personally for them. "Thank you," Beef replied with a nod to the hermit, as "Hey, never to help some friends." Impulse shrugged. "Besides, you guys helped me, so I thought I'd return the favor. I'll probably get the rest of this down in the TFC later." Jevon replied matter-of-factly as he closed the box again. "It's good to see you." "How much longer do you think we can keep this up? You can keep this up?" Impulse asked curiously. "I know no one would deliberately give it away, but all it takes is someone following to cause a problem." Jevon nodded as he looked over at the others, before looking back at him. "Do you think anyone was following you?" "I think I would have heard them if I did." The hermit frowned as he touched his pocket for his communicator. "Still, the wrong people don't always need to ask questions. Just be careful." "We will," Corellis replied, sounding confident. Said it. "Yeah, one guy won't be a match for 5 of us." I'm gonna fix that. I gotta fix that. That's not right. Hypno confirmed. "Granted, we don't want to be found for as long as possible," Jevon sighed, shaking his head. "It's going to be a headache for the cause to deal with regardless. They have a lot on their plate right now." "I can't deny that," Impulse agreed. "We'll figure it out if it comes to it." Jevon and the others nodded, and Impulse went over to the door, hesitating as he heard a noise coming from the other side, putting his ear to the door. All Impulse is doing is helping a friend with a secret project, Blake's confident voice reported. "You know we shouldn't keep secrets from the others, right? Secrets could be dangerous," an unfamiliar voice said firmly. "I've seen XP coming down here for the past few weeks, so I thought I should have a chat with Impulse." The voice trailed off. Impulse looked back at the others, noticing them disappearing out of sight. I smiled, opening the door as he was greeted by 2 individuals. Blake was blocking the door as one of the former backup members tried to push through away. "I thought you were relieved of your duty," Impulse said calmly, looking at the man. "So there's no reason or need to know what we're up to." "But," her man insisted. "Impulse is right," Blake replied. "You do not need to be here." "Still, shouldn't Rose know what you've been up to?" the man asked. "She does," Impulse replied, unsure himself of whether or not she actually did. He just needed to get the man off their backs as he walked up to his escort. "I don't want word getting about what I'm doing, and I don't want you snooping around my friends' things either." The former backup crew member sighed in frustration. "Can I just have a peek?" "No," Blake said firmly. "If you have a problem, talk with Rose. You have no right to be here." "Fine," the man scoffed, as another pair of footsteps could be heard coming down the stairs. "Is there a problem?" XP's voice asked, calmly, as he peered into view. No, I was just leaving," the other member said grumpily, as he pushed the hermit aside and bolted for the stairs. He was snooping when he wasn't supposed to be. Blake mused, glancing over at Impulse. "Nice job using Rose's cover." "Thanks," Impulse chuckled. "So I don't know how well it'll stand." She will go along with it," Blake said confidently, with a smile, before nodding over at XP. "Might want to add a few more alarm features down here for potential intruders." "Noted." XP smiled, relieved as he looked over at Impulse. "Everything good now?" "Should be," the hermit replied. "Do feel free to call me if you need anything, or if an issue comes up. I know Jem has a secret room that we can use, or I can make my own." "Great," XP said brightly, a grin on his face. "I'll see you later, then." Impulse smiled, giving his friend a wave as he followed Blake as he followed Blake back up the stairs, now able to have a little more ease of mind. He knew Mr. A's men probably eventually would find out about these hidden hermits, but hopefully not for a while. Only time would tell, and if that time did come, he would be ready. He didn't have much of a choice in the matter. Chapter 9. Impulse entered the gem's base once again, stepping off the last stair as he went into the main room. Blake right behind him. I should probably report the incident to Matthias, Blake admitted, with a frown, looking at the hermit. Should be fine, Impulse nodded. He knows what's going on, and he's probably the best one who can deal with a situation like this, like that. Okay, I'll be in the other room if you need me. Blake smiled with a nod as he disappeared into the kitchen. His Impulse went over to the window, peeking outside through the blinds. He knew he could pull them back, but it was hard to tell if someone was lurking out there. But both of the bases were empty. Why would anyone be spying? He shook his head as he chuckled nervously. Maybe there was a chance someone was there, waiting for a perfect time to strike. To be fair, it was only just him and Blake here right now. Jim and Pearl had gone over to B-Dubs to catch up and see if they could help him with anything. Skid had also gone with them, since his escort hadn't shown up yet, since the YouTuber had bailed on him to get here. I mean, that is something he would do, right? Maybe the escort thought it would be fine, or Skid had told him not to worry about it. To be fair, the YouTuber could be quite convincing. Whatever the reason, it didn't matter all that much. If he needed anything, his friends were just one call away. He had no reason to worry about anything as he looked down at the invisibility detector, relieved to see it was still on and working as it should. No one had been here that wasn't supposed to. The hermit walked from the window to the chest and looked inside, noting that they were starting to run a little low on potion ingredients. He wondered if it would be a good idea to go out and gather some with Blake, but with his luck, that could easily end badly. He shrugged with a thought. Sure. Yeah, that's funny. He's supposed to be very lucky, but he's not very lucky with these guys. He shrugged with the thought aside, closing his chest as he heard a distant explosion from the forest. He turned to the window again, seeing a flash of sparks crackle through the tree line as they shimmered out. Someone had shot a firework rocket. Why? Blake? Impulse called, immediately turning away from the window as he ran across the room to where their escort was. Blake looked up at the sound of his name, pocketing it as a communicator. What is it? The boy asked quickly, seeing the hermit's nervous expression. Something's going on outside, Impulse said firmly, turning when he heard a faint scream. Was it a scream? Impulse. Blake had apparently heard it too, as he went for the main door without prompting, slamming it open as the hermit chased after him. Impulse's eyes grew wide as he ran outside, seeing something fly through the trees before collapsing into the sun-kissed grass. The hermit ran over, seeing, to his horror, Grian lying on his side, unconscious, bruised with firework burns peeking out from under his jumper. Grian? Impulse whispered as he knelt next to his friend, hearing his escort pull out a sword. He looked up just as he saw a figure appear in the trees. What's this? The figure asked. The shine of metal hit the sunlight as the sword gleamed. The man stepped out, his eyes narrowing at the two hermits, as Blake stood in front of them defensively. It's good to see you again after our last encounter. What did you do? Impulse demanded, standing as he lifted his chin. Your friend gave me quite the chase, the man chuckled. I was actually kind of enjoying it. Well, it should be pretty clear you failed at this point, Blake replied firmly. Twice, actually, to do what you were asked to do. Oh, I wouldn't say I failed yet, the man mused. Pulse looked down at his friend, seeing the grass around him start to grow a shade of red. Oh, you have to find us first. You have to find us first, Impulse demanded, scooping his friend off the ground as he looked up at the man coldly. Impulse, go, Blake warned, as the man lunged, the boy blocking the man's advances as the hermit ran back into the house, using his shoulder to open the secret door under the stairs as he carried his friend inside, the door automatically closing behind him as he laid him gently onto the bed. Grian let out a soft, pained groan as the Impulse stepped from the bed to the corner of the room, pulling the shoulder box closer as he opened it, trying to find what he was looking for. Hang in there, G, Hermit said quickly, hoping to reassure his friend. Not sure if he could even hear him, as he pulled out a towel and a regen potion as he poured the potion over the towel, gently placing it on his friend's chest. trying not to see how stained his friend's jumper was, or how torn. Whatever had happened, it hadn't been as simple as an easy escape. He could see some scorched marks on his friend's jumper as well, where the firework sparks had hit their mark. But he was certain he'd taken care of everything. He pulled the covers up to his friend's chin, hoping a little rest would improve the injuries, and he heard a loud thud outside. He looked over the door, seeing nothing. What was that? What was happening out there? The hermit stumbled to his feet as he quietly went to the door, putting an ear to it as he listened. At first, he heard nothing. Then he heard a pair of footsteps walking into the hallway. "I know you're in here somewhere," the muffled voice of the man called out. "Blake won't be able to save you now. I took care of you. Might as well surrender. It saved me some time." Bill shook his head, unsure of whether he should believe what the man was saying. "I heard... That's what I wanted." "Dear Blake?" The hermit closed his eyes as he took out his communicator, stepping away from the door as he heard the footsteps move to the main hall. The man calling for them, taunting him to come out. He pushed a few buttons. The voice came on. "Impulse?" Jim asked, sounding surprised to hear from him. "Is everything... Green and I are alone in your base with the man from before," Impulse said quickly. "He's managed to knock out Blake or something. I have no clue where Caden might be." "Wait, why is Green there?" Her voice sounded concerned. Impulse tried his best to stay calm. "It's a long story that I can't explain now, but we need help," the hermit pressed. "If you don't come out now, I'll make sure you regret it," the man's taunting voice called faintly through the door. "You could probably move to the kitchen. I could always come back later after punishing one of your other friends." The Impulse bit his bum lip as he looked over at Green, still completely unconscious. "Jem, please, we need backup. Now." "We're coming," Skiz's voice stated through the device as Jem reiterated the fact. "Just hang in there for as long as you can," Jem said in a hushed voice. "He shouldn't find you, right?" "Yeah," the hermit Impulse said nervously. "Just hang in tight and don't leave the room," she warned. As the hermit heard knocking on the wall, he jumped. "Hurry," the hermit whispered before disconnecting the device, going over to the far wall and pushing back a painting, revealing a little gadget inside as he turned it on, showing the hallway as the man was sure enough knocking on the walls. He needed to do something to stall time. How? What was he supposed to do? The hermit looked down at the controls and an idea sparked in his mind, pressing a button as something clattered to the floor upstairs. Sure enough, the man stopped knocking, seeming quite pleased with himself as he ran for the stairs, probably thinking he had them cornered. Impulse breathed a sigh of relief, knowing he saved them at least a few minutes. Impulse turned back to his sleeping friend, seeing his pale face slowly starting to regain some color. As he went over to him, looking up at the ceiling above, he heard the man's footsteps. He could no longer hear him, though, but at least they had some time to come up with a plan. "I don't know what to do right now, Green," the hermit admitted at his sleeping friend, closing his eyes as he waited. Maybe he could see if they could sneak out through the tunnel system. But he didn't want to move Green in his condition. He still technically needed to bandage him up, even though the region had done a lot of the work for him. It wasn't enough. Minutes passed by as the footsteps stopped. A long moment. Not nearly filling him, as he heard some muttering. Opening his eyes as he looked over at his friend, his mouth moving ever so slightly. Stopped moments later, the knocking started up again. But the hermit stood, hearing the click as the gears started. The doors opened and the man stood there, surprised for a moment to see the sight, but smiling as the pulled out his sword. "There you are," the man said darkly, narrowing his eyes as he pulled out his sword. "Do you have any final words before I finish what I started? Or are you willing to come with me?" "You didn't give me that chance last time," Pulse warned. The man smiled. "I have plans for the both of you that Mr. A would be certainly pleased to know. He's not one for quick and painless death. I'm not surrendering, and I'm not letting you touch my friend again either," Pulse replied defiantly, raising his sword as he narrowed his eyes. He hoped he looked as formidable and intimidating as he could, but the man only laughed. "I'm going to enjoy this," The man replied as he walked into the room, the door closing behind him as Impulse looked up at the dark eyes, waiting, eager to make the first move. He had to stand strong, told his friends were almost here. They were the only hope he had right now. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, I'll see you guys in part 4.